CJ Stroud versus Sam Darnold. Who's better? Let's have a discussion. It might drive us into a mutual understanding or extreme disagreements. Quarterback positions like that. Let's go.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the Locker Room on YouTube. You know what it is. Let's get it. Hey. Locker Room. Yeah, we in the locker room. Texas talk. Yeah, you know what we about to do. Localize every angle's what we really do. We the source, we the pulse of the city too. Landlocked, got the game in the headlock. Localize every time, can't stop, won't stop. Yeah, we top two and we not too. Plugged in daily digital on YouTube. We got taste for days.
All right, nothing creates more emotion in sports and for sure in football than talking about quarterbacks. Quarterbacks get most of the blame. Quarterbacks get most of the credit. In Houston, you went without a quarterback for a long time. And as soon as you feel like you have one, you want to ride and die with the guy. And sometimes at the sake of the organization, you want to defend him, especially when you start talking about other guys. I think the two guys who we'll see on Monday night, one of the most exciting, anticipated Texans games that I can remember in the regular season. I think these two guys, when it comes to this position, they're kind of the epitome of the emotions of what comes with the quarterback position. By the way, shout out to Sleeper for sponsoring this video. I do have a higher lower that we'll get to a little later on as we talk about the matchups. But I want to talk about the matchup that most people talk about. And by the way, at Sleeper, you can get $20 free entry with no deposit required. You can still use the promo code Locker as well and get a 100% match up to $100. We'll get more into that a little bit later. But CJ Stroud versus Sam Darnold. And we haven't really talked about this. We've talked about this game now for a few days. We've talked about this. And we really haven't talked much about the quarterback matchup, which is kind of unique when it comes to a really, really big game like this. We haven't really talked about it. And I think if you ask most people outside of Houston, I think they would say that Sam Darnold right now is better than CJ Stroud. And all you would really have to do to back up what they're saying is you would have to look at the stats. Could I interest you in some stats? Let's look at these stats with Sam Darnold versus CJ Stroud. And this is the last two seasons since Sam Darnold went to Minnesota and then went to Seattle. So Sam Darnold's played one more game. He's better in literally every single category: completion percentage, passing yards by a long margin, passing yards per attempt, which a lot of people put a lot of stock in, passing yards per game, passing touchdowns, interceptions, they're tied, which is kind of crazy. Rating, complete dominance, more rushing attempts. CJ Stroud is ahead in the rushing yards and rushing yards per attempt. I think a lot of that has to do with this year. And Darnold's ahead in rushing touchdowns. And then you have fantasy points, which some of you may care about the most. So those stats right there, they lean towards Sam Darnold over CJ Stroud. Now, some people will say, well, CJ Stroud's running for his life. He has a bad offensive line, and he's had bad surroundings the last two seasons. We don't know what's going to happen and if Nick Caley's going to turn the corner, but that would be the argument. And I would not disagree with that. But if we scroll down a little bit more and we look at this, and right there you can see the passing totals. You can see the breakdown, which Darnold's way ahead in. You can see the passing totals. And then it gets really interesting. We get to advanced stats here, accuracy, all that. And then we get to this one, pressure. And that's where it gets really interesting, because as I was scrolling through these stats, on StatHat, I wondered, okay, well, how one-sided is this going to be in CJ Stroud's favor as far as pressure? Well, you look at this, and Sam Darnold has been blitzed 8 less times in one game. He has 5 less hurries in one more game. He's been hit 3 less times in one more game. The percentage is 25.7 for Stroud, 23.5 for Darnold. And it's really not that much different. So that kind of eliminates the argument over pressure when it comes to these two quarterbacks. Now, I want to make this very, very clear. I don't think there's a GM in the world that would, in their right mind, if you gave them a choice with all surroundings equal, I don't think there's a GM in the world that would take Sam Darnold over CJ Stroud. Maybe there is. Maybe it's a little bit closer, but I do think the age difference and the fact that CJ Stroud does have a lot of talent, I don't think too many GMs would take Sam Darnold over CJ Stroud. But this is the one thing that I think does need to be factored in. There's two things that I think should be factored in when having discussions like this, especially when discussing these two guys. Number one, factor one is surroundings matter. So Sam Darnold, when you look at where he started out, he was with the Jets, which has established himself as a dumpster fire. And then he was with the Panthers, which have established themselves as the laughingstock when it comes to quarterbacks in the league. Now, maybe Dave Canales is figuring it out with Bryce Young, but before that, they had Sam Darnold and Baker Mayfield in consecutive seasons. Both of them went awful, and then those guys left and completely revived their careers. So the surroundings do matter. Factor two, though, is that you shouldn't write guys off too early. Just the fact this is even a discussion would surprise a lot of people. If during the 2023 season, I told you that 2 years from then, where CJ Stroud was setting the world on fire, every single podcast, every single network wanted to interview him, and Sam Darnold was a backup in San Francisco that looked like he was kind of en route to maybe hanging around the NFL. Ideally, as a journeyman, we would have sat there and we would have said, that's crazy. Like there's no way that CJ Stroud is going to fall off that bad or Sam Darnold's going to elevate himself that much. And quite frankly, I don't think that Stroud has really fallen off too much. I don't think he's played as well as his rookie season, but it is a little bit of a fall off, and it's a hell of a rise for Sam Darnold. So what CJ Stroud is right now, who knows what he'll be in 3 years? Who knows what he'll be in 3 years? And the other thing that I think needs to be factored in, because there's also a portion of Texans fans that are going to ride and die with the QB, which you should, not judging. The other thing that should be factored in is, do you trust D'Amico Caserio and the Texans to provide CJ Stroud with the right surroundings? Do you trust them to provide CJ Stroud with the right surroundings? If you're blaming the surroundings, fine. Not a great offensive line. Bobby Slowick clearly fell off last year. That was obvious.
Damn it, Bobby.
Nick Caley has looked up and down, and it's really been up against crap teams.
Nick.
Do you trust this organization to put CJ Stroud in the right position to maximize whatever his talents are and whatever his ceiling can be? I think that would be a mixed bag. I think there's still a lot of people out on Nick Caley. If they win this next game, I think there's going to be a lot of people really in on the Texans, regardless of what it looks like. But for the sake of this, we're just talking about the quarterback. And the question is, do you trust D'Amico Caserio and the Texans to put CJ Stroud, put the right stuff around him? And here's the other thing that I think should be taken into account. If you are rolling your eyes at Sam Darnold right now, and you're questioning why he's even being mentioned in the same sentence as CJ Stroud, don't you think that the perception of Sam Darnold has as much to do, probably more to do, with his surroundings than what's going on with CJ Stroud's surroundings the last year and a half? Sam Darnold started out with the Jets and the Panthers. Maybe if he would have come into the league with what CJ had his first year, there wouldn't be this perception about Sam Darnold. And it could be a thing of the past, but I do still think, despite the fact Sam Darnold has played at a Pro Bowl caliber and dark horse MVP caliber early in the season. Last year he was a Pro Bowler. This year, early, he's 25% through the season, first quarter. He's a dark horse MVP candidate, but there's still that perception, and the perception has as much to do with his surroundings as anything. Has as much to do with his surroundings as what CJ's had. Because what CJ Stroud had last year with Bobby Slowick, and it was bad. Square peg, round hole, trying to plug and play, copy paste, the Shanahan system. We hear Stoots say that all the time. But what he had last year was better than anything he had his first 4 years in the league. So the surroundings do matter. To answer this question, I would say that that Sam Darnold right now is definitely playing better than CJ Stroud. I don't even think it's a question. He's playing better than CJ Stroud. And does that mean that he is better? Like, would you rather, if you're the Texans, would you rather have CJ Stroud? I doubt it. But would CJ be doing as good as what Sam Darnold's doing in Seattle? I don't know. Your guess is as good as mine. But I do think you do got to salute Sam Darnold and give him his credit for how he's recovered from what he went through early on in his career. Because there's not a lot of quarterbacks who do that. Now, he was 20 when he came into the league. I think CJ was around the same age. But Sam Darnold, the fact that we're even questioning this, I got a lot of respect for where he's at and what he looks like. And it'll be really interesting to see what CJ Stroud looks like on the back end of this bye week. It'll be really interesting to see what he looks like, because the one thing and the one intangible that you may question about CJ Stroud, and I witnessed this up close, y'all witness it with the way that we talk about it. Sometimes I think when things aren't that bad, I think his emotions, and as he says, his body language, I think sometimes they make it magnifies even more the I'm not having fun last year vibe. We hear about the Sam Darnold ghost and all that, but the I'm not having fun type of thing. I think you got to have a lot of mental toughness to play 3 years in New York, be the whipping boy in New York, go to Carolina, go through that dumpster fire, humble yourself to go to San Francisco and be a backup, prove yourself in Minnesota, and then go get paid. I have a lot of respect for what Sam Darnold has done. The question is, what will we be saying about CJ Stroud that amount of time down the line? What will we be saying? Will we be talking about the Texans not surrounding him with the right guys? Will we be talking about CJ Stroud elevating himself? It's definitely a different conversation. And again, 2 years ago, if you would have told me that a year later, Sam Darnold would have outplayed CJ Stroud, blame the surroundings, and been 1-0 against him, and then the next year, this discussion's being had, and the majority of the national media types would be saying Sam Darnold's better, I would have called you crazy. Just the fact we're having it. Again, two things. Surroundings matter, and the Sam Darnold Baker Mayfield theory. It's wild. We'll see how it goes. We'll see what it looks like. But the quarterback matchup, it's crazy that it's kind of on the back burner for such a big game. And it should be fun. And quite frankly, I think both of these teams are capable of winning regardless of what the quarterback does or doesn't do. So we'll see what the coaching looks like. We'll see what the quarterbacks play like, and we'll see how it goes down. Shout out to TDECU for sponsoring Reaction Monday and doing everything that they do. Just got another message from someone who said he took advantage of that TDECU debit card at tdECU.org/Texans, 15% off at the Texans team shop, no matter what you want to get. And that's not all they do. TDECU does a heck of a lot. TDECU, they'll look out for you. They'll help you through the whole process. A lot of locations in Houston. But for the sake of this community, I think you all want that pretty fresh new logo Texans debit card, which you can get membership required, insured by NCUA. Go to tdecu.org/Texans to get in on that. Let's go to the soup real quick. Also got another exercise that I want to get into that we'll talk about in a sec. Shout out to everyone for riding with me late night. You ain't never hate. Swarm. 713 Sports said, what do you think the first play call should be? I think Kaylee should get CJ rolling with the play action out the gate. Test that O-line, score 28, you win. I mean, yeah, Seattle's, I think that they're holding teams to under 20. First play call, I mean, it depends where it's at. I don't know. I don't know what Kaylee would have. He seems like kind of a scripted guy. How about a screen? How about a nice little screen, like a wide receiver screen or a screen to Woody Marks? Bring Woody Marks out there and run a screen first play for Woody Marks. Get that catch total up. Malik the Rapper says, I would rather trade for Joe Bitonio over Brees. I mean, can we see what the young offensive line looks like in Seattle? I'm not saying that this won't be a very potentially popular topic in 5 days, but can we at least give Juice Scruggs and Ed PFF Ingram a chance to line up against the Seattle Seahawks before we say this? You might be a visionary, Malik. This might travel well with time. You might not be alone, but let's see what they look like in that game. Roy Boy 3281 says, I have high hopes for CJ and the offense. Both Baker and Lawrence had good stats against the Seahawks. They win with their historic D. Pause. Yeah, that's a good pause right there. Yeah, it's gonna be the defense if they win. Malik, the man, he says, huge fan of you and your channels. I just play devil's advocate and challenging y'all's takes respectfully. By the way, HM for a second, Cody smoking LMAO.
High-grade marijuana called Kush on the streets.
Dude, I like when people play devil's advocate. It doesn't bother me at all. I think it's the best thing. I appreciate you for rolling with us. I'm gonna say a lot of dumb shit. It's not. I don't brag when I'm right. I don't really harp when I'm wrong. It's part of it. There's a lot of guys who won't say it. So, dude, that is awesome, and we appreciate that. Calling us out. Yeah, I don't know where HM came up. Cody was talking about HM. I'm the biggest running back guy in the world. I don't really want to trade a second for a running back because I think that's like a gold mine of running backs. And you get them with 4 years cheap in that situation. Worst case scenario, they ball out 3 years and then you have to pay them. So yeah, I don't know where that came from. I'm more of a Brees Hall guy, but I don't know what Stoots was on today. I have no idea. Stoots was on it. I like getting him fired up though. It was fun. I like that. But yeah, I don't know where HN came from. I wanted to hit the EA Sports sounder when Stoots said that. Didn't really understand where that was going. Another theory that I've brought up is I think that Will Anderson's going to be under a major microscope on Monday night. By the way, the backlash on the CJ Stroud versus Sam Darnold thing, not as crazy as it once would have been. Are people lower on CJ Stroud? You naturally would be, but it's not as much as it once would have been. But I think Will Anderson's under a major microscope on Monday night. And this is my reasoning. The player that we're talking about the most heading into this game is who? The kid from Texas. The kid from Rockwall, Texas. Jackson Smith and Jigba. We're talking about him a lot. And I've always liked Jackson Smith and Jigba. He was a guy that I wanted with that 12th pick in the 2023 draft. And instead of staying put, the Texans elected to trade up for Will Anderson. They traded one of their first-round picks the next year. They traded that number 12, which they could have gotten JSM, and they traded a 33. The 33rd overall pick in that draft, which, by the way, I think Sam Laporta went there. They gave up a crap ton of value for Will Anderson. And I know it's someone say it's like ultimate hindsight, but when you talk about the offensive line, and those picks could have been used on offensive linemen, it could have been used on the best player in this draft. They ended up finding Tank Dell. Tank Dell had a great rookie season. But it would be nice to see Will Anderson in this situation go out there and be the best player on the field. Because the guy that went after him, we're talking about him in that manner. And you can just look at the 2023 draft. Let me pull up the Wikipedia. And you can just go through the order, and it kind of puts in perspective everything they gave up for Will Anderson. So you trade this pick right here. Texans trade this pick right here from Cleveland and Arizona. Jahmyr Gibbs goes 12. So you could have had Jahmyr Gibbs. You could have had Jackson Smith and Jigba right here, but that's not all. So you gave that up for Will Anderson. I'm not saying this to attack Will Anderson. I'm just saying return on investment kind of matters here. So let's just say Jahmyr Gibbs, Jackson Smith, and Jigba. And this is not complete revisionist history. We were talking about these guys the day of the draft as potential guys at 12. We covered it. The channel was alive and popping. The draft time pops more on mine and Cody's channels than the regular season. That's our shit. That's what we like to do, the draft. So JSN and Zay Flowers. Then you go to 33. Sam Laporta right here at 34. Gone. Some of these other guys, Brian Branch, blah, blah, blah. There's a lot of opportunity there. And then you go to the next year in the draft, there could have been a wide receiver. They've invested so much on the D-line at the sake of the offensive line, and really, quite frankly, at the sake of the offense, to the point where it's almost frustrating when you go into a game where the Texans have this elite defense. They have this elite defensive line. They have the best. By the way, they also have the most expensive edge duo in the league. I'm not just counting salary with Will Anderson, but I'm counting what you gave up for him, and we just laid it out. That's 3x. That's 3 players right there. That's Gibbs or Smith and Jigba, and Smith and Jigba is the one we'll focus on here. Laporta, and then the first the next year. It would be nice, especially against a pretty suspect Seattle offensive line. It would be nice for that investment to be what wins you the game instead of the investment that you neglected. Now, I know they were investing in the offensive line at the time, but post-2023, the Shaq Mason trade, yeah, the Titus Howard extension. But as far as like equity, it would be nice for your investment to be what takes you home instead of what you neglected at the sake of the investment. And it would be a double kick to the nuts if Jackson Smith and Jigba goes out and balls out, and we have to have another advanced stat Will Anderson day where, yeah, he got this close to the quarterback, but there were a lot of pressures and there's win rate and all that type of stuff. You know who thinks he should be sacking the quarterback more? Will Anderson. Will Anderson thinks he should be sacking the quarterback more. When we talk about these matchups, we talk about all the star players. Will Anderson's there, but it doesn't feel like when we talk about it that, Will Anderson might dominate this game and he might be the best player on the field. It would be nice to start in this situation, especially given the fact that there is a tangible view of what you gave up at the sake of Will Anderson. It'd be nice. I said this on the collective. It would be nice to see Will Anderson and Danielle Hunter both eat at the same time. Not just the advanced stats, but it would be nice to see them both wreaking havoc at the same time, especially in a game like this. Isn't this supposed to be what it's all about? I think so. Cebu says, would you say having the number one defense is payoff of the investment? I guess. I mean, is it? If you have offensive problems and you gave up a few picks that you could have split between the offense and maybe the defense, and you ended up getting Danielle Hunter as well, who's playing at a comparable level to Will Anderson, is that payoff for an investment? I don't know. It would be nice to see him do it. Be very nice to see it. Who are the announcers for the Seattle game? It is not Joe and Troy. It might be Lewis Riddick. Lewis Riddick might teach you about football, but it might be Riddick and Orlovsky. Who's the B team for ESPN? It might be Lewis Riddick, which some people might like. I kind of roll my eyes at it a little bit. Very much. DQ says, I don't believe in the Seahawks secondary. They're banged up. Yeah, you shouldn't. They're not good. Now, tomorrow, I know typically you're used to getting injury reports on Wednesday. Both teams were off today. They pushed it back a week. So they're actually going to practice Saturday. Tomorrow's the equivalent of a Wednesday practice, which is when you start to get injury reports. I don't anticipate any of the Texans, like anything crazy happening, but you never know. It's football. It's kind of crazy. Sometimes guys walk around and then next thing you know, they're really, really hurt. We know they're not going to offer up the information, but we won't see anything. HDAV Traveler says Riddick ain't bad. Okay. Disagree, brother. I love HD, but man, it's a beating to me. There's some Lewis Riddick fans in the chat. Good for you. How many times have y'all watched him call a game on a team that you actually support? Maybe I'm bitter because he called the Texas-Florida game, if we're being honest. Maybe that bothered me just a little bit. Maybe that's where it is. I wouldn't bet on Cade Stover playing anytime soon. There's no, I mean, it's weeks for Cade Stover, maybe months for him. So I wouldn't. We're there. Is Sam Darnold a better version of Matt Schaub? Matt Schaub started out as a backup. He wasn't like ridiculed or anything like that. Atlanta actually kind of broke him off a little bit. But I mean, there is like different layers of what you thought of him early on in his career to what you thought of late. So there's that. Maybe he's a better version. Don't know. Also came into the league a lot more heralded than he. He was a top 3 pick. I remember I went to the Coliseum and watched Sam Darnold play Texas, and they ended up winning on a last-second field goal. And that was when he was supposed to be the truth. Ended up going third, going to the Jets. And then that's where it went. Cam says, why worry about Stover when you can go save Njoku? I don't know if they like Njoku or not. I don't know if they like it. I mean, I wouldn't mind it. I think Njoku and Breece Hall are the two guys that I would very much support the Texans making a trade for. But I don't know how much they like Njoku or don't. To be honest, I think next year tight end is going to be a draft priority. I don't know how high of a priority, but I think he can figure something out. By the way, dark horse in this game too for the Seahawks, Elijah Arroyo, who the Texans actually worked out. He's from Frisco, went to Miami. He might be someone to look out for them for like some potential big plays. I would keep an eye on him. It seems like there are times over the course of the last, I don't know, half decade where the backup tight end makes a play against the the Texans. And Arroyo is very capable of making plays. He's pretty freak athlete for a tight end, and he's definitely from the great state of Texas out there in Frisco. Let's go back to the soup.
You ain't never hate.
Swarm.
What will we have to give up for Holland and Njoku? Hall, you're not giving up a second. I know that. I mean, I think maximum will be a third, maybe even less. For Njoku, maybe like a day 3, a combination of day 3s. They're just going to be getting rid of guys. And the difference, the big difference between Holland and Njoku is neither one of them are going to be on most likely their teams next year, no matter what. But in Njoku, they already have someone that they like. We mentioned Arroyo, another potential Texans tight end target in the previous draft was Harold Fannin. Harold Fannon's playing pretty well in Cleveland. So they already have his replacement. Like, they have it right there in front of them. The Jets will at least have to think, how do we replace Breece Hall? But the Fannon's already with the Browns and been playing for a while. Skylar Bancroft on the chat says Wisner and Marks next year would be nice. I'm good on that. I haven't really dove into the running backs, but I'm not as big on him. I want Hall, Marks, and then draft a back. I always want to draft a back. Y'all know that. So that's what I would want. I'm not as big on him as some people are, for sure. Yes, there are people worse than Louis Riddick. There's no doubt. It's not Booger McFarland. Now, if there's Booger McFarland people in the chat, I'm just gonna have to dip out. if we're going Booger McFarland, then I'm just gonna have to say bye-bye. That was a disaster. Who was worse, Booger McFarland or Jason Witten? Siraj on the chat says, man, Landry, I think it's going to be a Woody week. Oh no, there's a lot of theories that they're going to unleash Woody Marks in this game. Maybe they'll unleash rookies. Maybe they'll catch Seattle by surprise. I thought there was a good point brought up by Reginald today during the collective that, I mean, they've had 15 days to prepare for this game. Yeah, there's got to, like, you had something creative had to have crossed Nick Caley's mind, right? I mean, I know he's not Nick. I know he's not Bill Walsh or anything, but like something creative had to have crossed his mind a little bit, right? Like there had to have at least been something where he decided that he was going to do something new, right? Is that too crazy to ask? I would be hard pressed to think that they don't try something, whether it's Noel, whether it's Woody Marks, something had to have crossed his mind. If not, then again, just comes down to the defense, your superpower. But I have some sort of faith that he might try to do something. Now, a lot of times these coordinators, especially like the New England guys, when there's something happens, sometimes it's just so lame. Like I remember there was a coach at Texas named Greg Davis who his big wrinkle in a big game would be, we're going to run a fake reverse every play. Nothing really, just a fake reverse every play. We're going to run some sort of sweep. This is another test for Nick Caley. We talked about like the mini tests for a first-time play caller before the season started. Like the first one would be, how does he look when no one's seen him? Then it's, how does he look when teams have watched tape? What does Nick Caley look like when he has extra time to prepare? Didn't look good against the Rams. But he at least has a visual of what Seattle's going to do and what they're going to try to do. Quite frankly, it might be either what the offensive line looks like as far as handling stunts and all that, or what or what he does to counter any deficiencies on the offensive line. I think that's just as important. It would be really nice to see Nico Collins getting the ball quickly, early and often. The old TO, early and often. It would be nice to see that. Are we going to? I don't know. I'm not going to hold my breath. I don't completely trust him yet. Let's go back to the chat here in the locker room.
You ain't never hate.
Swarm.
Evan says, send Dari and Chubb and a pick for Hall. All right. So you're going to trade one of your better special teams players, which is what they think Dari is. Nick Chubb, why would they want that? And a pick for Hall. That's some EA Sports right there. That is some EA Sports right there. Video game trade. But if you could do that, then yeah, that would be nice. Don't think that's going to happen, though. It's always funny whenever people want to trade like the players that they think suck the most to another squad. It did happen to Matt. You know how you throw in like an extra 6 back in the old franchise mode days? That was great. Patrick, speaking of the backs, says, I hope to God that D'Amico has recognized that Pierce isn't worth the salt on his back. Yikes. Are we expecting a better look at RB? Marks should get first touches. I don't know what the deal is with Pierce. I mean, the weirdest thing about Pierce is that, and they haven't done it to like too extreme of a level, but they almost treat like 2 or 3 good kickoff returns like he's, I'm going to date myself. Y'all probably won't even know who this is. Like he's Eric Metcalf or something like that, or Brian Westbrook from the old Washington R words. I don't know what they like about Dameon Pierce. Like Nick Caserio is always like apologized for him and made excuses for him. D'Amico Ryans always talks extremely fondly of him. He's on the roster no matter what. Sometimes he's active, sometimes he's inactive. I don't get it. I really don't understand it. Quite frankly, I would rather see Jawar Jordan and just put him out there and see what pops instead of Dameon Pierce at this point. I would rather see Jawar Jordan. I thought he showed some decent things in the preseason. Am I sitting here saying that I think Jawar Jordan should be in a running back rotation of a good team? No. But I'm saying that I would be more intrigued to see him get some carries than Dameon Pierce. I'd be more intrigued to see British Brooks get carries at the non-fullback position than Dameon Pierce at this point. He doesn't have any vision. He doesn't have any vision. The explosions is moderate, and he gets hurt all the time. I don't understand what they like about Dameon Pierce. Nick Caley spoke very highly of him in the offseason. Like that rookie season was okay, but I compared it, and we go back to the 23 draft. I was talking about like if another guy at 12, and this was a weird discussion. I think running backs have completely done a 180 since then. I think people have more value in a short period of time for them running backs than they did even then. But it was like if Bijan falls to 12, do you take him? Or do you take Gibbs? And it was like, no, there's that's not good positional value. And you had Dameon Pierce. The Jags, when they had an extra first round pick, they still took ETN when they had James Robinson. James Robinson and Dameon Pierce are a lot alike. James Robinson had the one good rookie season, and they never did anything after that. Couldn't stay healthy. When he was out there, he was ineffective. Like Dameon Pierce is to the Texans what James Robinson was to Jacksonville. That's what he is. He doesn't. It's not great. Can't understand it. Skylar, this is a hell of a comparison on the chat.
You ain't never hate.
Swarm.
He says British Brooks equals Ben Tate. That would be great if he was. If he's Ben Tate, get his ass out there. Hell, get his ass out there and give him 20 carries on Monday. British Brooks is a badass special teamer, though. I do like that you have someone who can be like kind of a fullback and an emergency tight end on special teams instead of someone who's just like a clear reserve linebacker. I think that's a nice trend. He's a great special teams player. British Brooks. Like he knocks the F out of people. He does his thing. Big time. much like Texans turf. Shout out to Dan and his squad for doing what they did in the backyard. I wanted turf. I'd see people with turf and I'd be like, man, that looks expensive. Can we get turf? Will they do what they did to that lovely yard? Will they do it to my small backyard? I've seen them handle the big jobs, but will they handle the smalls? I talked to 5 companies, 5, 6. I lost count. And all of them acted like they were above doing a job like this. You know what Dan did this week? He did a full soccer field straight from Spain. His turf guy sent him to Spain. Him and his crew went out there the following day when they got back on the plane. They did a full soccer field. There's no job too big. There's no job too small. They don't rip you off. I shopped around. I was a customer before the partnership. I'm a customer now. And I've talked to a few viewers who've gotten in the game as well. A lot of the concerns about turf are, does it stay clean? Always green, always clean. I got a turf rake even. Looks lovely. It's easy to clean up. The dog, the baby, they play in there. You know what they don't do? They don't drag in mud. They also don't get bit by insects. I shopped around for you. If you shop around, there's a chance you bail on it because all these other companies, they're slime balls. They're slime balls. But it drains very quickly, and they do their thing. So shout out to Dan and his team. Shout out to Texans Turf for doing what they do. Always green, always clean. Go to TexansTurf.com. They got you covered. You will not regret it. I can promise you that. Let's go back to the chat. Danny says he wants to see at least one screen pass to Brooks. It will be interesting to see how they use Brooks. I told y'all before the last game because I saw it. When I go to practice, I'm watching. I'm not sitting there donging around. I'm not trying to put some videos up or anything like that. I'm watching practice. You could see that British Brooks was playing fullback. I think the thing that we might see more from British Brooks this week is, and I don't know if this is good or bad. But I'm calling my shot on this. You remember the way that they were using Jakob Johnson the first few games where he would like kind of go in motion and he would kind of pull? I think we see that from British Brooks. I think we see British Brooks kind of doing that pull thing that Jakob Johnson did.
We in here talking about practice.
Which, by the way, shout out to HCAV Traveler for the assistance on that. They're talking about practice. But I think we see that. And quite frankly, British Brooks running full speed around the corner, looking to headhunt and looking to knock someone's skull off. That's kind of a scary thing. But I think that's what we see. Now, Seattle's good against the run. Texans don't really run the ball well. But I think that will be a wrinkle that we see. And it would kind of be New England-y for them to run that 25 times, wouldn't it? Wouldn't that be B.O.B., like New England blowhard for them to like run? Their big adjustment is like a fullback lead block. Man, I'm depressing myself talking about this. Sometimes y'all make me feel all right. Then the other times you make me start overthinking this. But I would bet you that we see that a couple of times. Mike M has a random ass question. I guess you can consider it a little bit localized.
You ain't never hate.
Swarm.
Shout out to everyone in the chat. Appreciate the love. We're getting back into season mode. I think everybody maximized the bye week. We're getting back into season mode. Can someone explain to me the plan / thought process that's in play for the Titans? I thought the Texans front office in the BOB years was bad. They hired a shitty coach. The owner was the one who led the search. They fired the GM afterwards, and then they brought in the new football guys. So I actually don't think they have the worst football guys. I think they look like idiots because Amy Adams stank. The stanky one is kind of making them look foolish. But their plan is now going to be to try to hire a legit coach. And I think there's a couple of interesting opportunities for them. I would always go with Josh McCown. Till I die, I'm going Josh McCown, which might be too quick. But I also wonder if the Browns perhaps fire Kevin Stefanski and the Titans end up getting a really, really good coach. That would be another one that I think we need to keep an eye on out for is Kevin Stefanski. I think is a really good coach. I don't know how he feels about Cam Ward, but I think that Stefanski would be a hell of a hire for them. But do you trust them to make a hell of a hire? That's the question. So let's get this sleeper pick up. I've kind of just put everything that I've said into one pick. And again, sleeper, best app in the game, best social media in the game, most fun game that there is the higher lower. $20 entry. If you've never played, it's free. They're not gonna harass you. It's not anything. It's free. $20 entry, no deposit needed. You can play $1. You can play $5. It's a game of skill. It's fun. It makes every game more exciting. You can also get the 100% match up to $100. Use the promo code Locker. Got a lot of people playing this game. So this is where I'm going with the Texans and the Seahawks. And this is 9-1 odds. So we're talking nearly $50. I sprinkled a 5 on it. Woody Marks, receiving yards, higher. 12.5 is low. I'm going higher. He damn sure better have a few catches. We got to get to the point where he's got a handful of catches a game, and he's a nice complimentary back. So higher than 12.5 receiving yards. Christian Kirk. Now this is because it's such a low number and their secondary sucks and they stop the run well. So we saw the Texans get greedy against Baltimore where they got Christian Kirk involved.
Captain Kirk, can you save me? Captain Kirk, I want to have your baby.
I think Seattle would be smart to kind of lean towards Nico Collins, but I don't think they can hold him. But 37.5 yards, that's nothing. So I put higher than that. Charbonnet sucks. He shouldn't even play. I don't know why he does. The Texans stopped the run well. 39.5 yards, I'm taking lower. Walker's good. He sucks. Nico Collins, higher than 71.5 yards. You got to feed him early and often. Nobody can hold him. We'll find out if Witherspoon's practicing or not. Higher than 71.5 yards. And JSN, he's really, really good. He's awesome. This one's kind of risky, but it's decent odds. No touchdown for JSN. In large part because I think Stingley's going to be there, and I think the Texans might lean towards taking him out of the game. So that's where we're at. We got Woody Marks, 12.5. Higher. Christian Kirk, higher, 37.5. Charbonnet, lower. Smith and Jigma, lower. Nico Collins, 71.5. I kind of look like a homer with this one, don't I? Damn. It's going to happen like that. Use the promo code Locker, 100% up to $100. Got you covered. The greatness that is Sleeper, the best sports app in the game. So that's where we're at with this game. It's going to be fun. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be great. It's going to be late. And I wouldn't have it any other way. Evan on the soup.
You ain't never hate.
Swarm.
Does Petrie cover Cup or does Lassiter? I mean, there's probably going to be times where Petrie gets matched up on him. We'll see how he holds up. I wouldn't hold my breath on it. I don't think they're going to shadow him or anything like that. So maybe Seattle can get creative like the Rams did with Puka and find situations where they get that matchup. But I think the thing to watch is whether or not Derek Stingley gets the assignment of JSN the whole time. He wants it. I can promise you. But yeah, Rhonda says Jackson Smith going to get a TD, Landry. You probably might be right. That's why it's sometimes you got to risk it to get the biscuit. It was damn near 2-1. So if it were lower than that, I would have taken it. But yeah, sometimes it doesn't happen. But yeah, he definitely could and might. I'm not going to question you too much there, Rhonda. Definitely has the skill. The AFC South show.
high-grade marijuana called Kush on the streets.
What up, Landry? Burning one for you, pimp. How do you feel our defense matches up against Seattle? Where is the weakness? LMAO, it's Petrie still, despite the recent INTs. Defense doesn't have a lot of weaknesses. I guess that would be it. If we're nitpicking it, the defense does not have a lot of weaknesses. I will say the thing to look out for is play action. And I know the Texans have been really good against play action, but the problem with that, and I was reading Hawks blogger, who's freaking awesome, by the way. I was not familiar with his game as much because the Texans really haven't played the Seahawks, but Brian Nimhauser, he has a blog, Hawks blog, and it's a nice mix of Seattle information. But he talked about the play action pass, and the Texans lead the league in play action defense. And the thing that I find interesting about that is this early in the season, and I think the Texans defense is really, really good. And I'm gonna post this link in the chat if y'all want to check it out. It's a good read for getting ready for this game. I just put it in the chat. But the thing about it is they do have Kalen Bullock, who's kind of struggled with his eyes, which was something that he looked to work on in the offseason. And it feels like he could kind of be vulnerable to the big play. And MJ Stewart, we really haven't seen in really high pressure situations. Like MJ Stewart's done an excellent job of filling in for CJ Gardner-Johnson. But MJ Stewart didn't start against the Rams. He didn't start against the Bucks. He didn't start against the Jags. MJ Stewart's 2 starts have been against the Titans and the dog-butted version of the Ravens. This is a big challenge. This might be one of the bigger challenges that he faces. So there was kind of like a lot of disgust for MJ Stewart whenever CJ Gardner-Johnson, before we found out that he was kind of washed, sucked, and wacky in camp. It was like, oh God, MJ Stewart. And it's been calm, and he's played well. I'm not trying to take anything away from what he's done in these 2 games, but you really haven't seen MJ Stewart face a team like this and get challenged to where, you bite and you're over aggressive. JSN, Cooper Kupp, Elijah Arroyo, like those are the guys that are kind of blowing past you. That's a lot different than what he's faced recently. So I would say that to keep an eye on MJ Stewart is going to be a big challenge for him, his biggest challenge. And quite frankly, he hasn't really faced any big challenges as of yet. So this will be the first kind of look at that. It's kind of like the offensive line. People feeling good about the offensive line right now, but you always got to put the caveat that we really haven't played anyone. MJ Stewart's kind of an extreme example of that. He does have good surroundings around him, though. But let's keep an eye on MJ Stewart and how he holds up against these guys. I think that's something to really, really, really keep an eye on. Back to the soup, Skylar.
You ain't never hate.
Swarm.
Skylar says, Landry, how did you end up in the Johnny Football documentary? I did a TV appearance, so it's funny. We mentioned Rockwall. Even like early in my early career, so there's 2 fireworks seasons. I ran a warehouse in Rockwall, huge warehouse, millions of dollars in sales, 10,000 square feet. So it was my summer job as a kid, and then the guy just paid me so much for the 10-day seasons and unloading and running the whole thing, hiring all that, to where I would do it like during the year, even when I was early on in my radio career. So one time I was running that warehouse in Rockwall, and I got a call from a TV station because, of course, on July 4th, everyone's on vacation. And they asked me if I wanted to come in and talk about Johnny Manziel. And I was like, yeah. So I did. And I'll be damned if the documentary didn't pick me up talking on the Johnny Manziel documentary. Weird as hell. I mean, because of all the times to do it, I think it was literally like the third or the fourth. And I came right back, and everyone thought that was pretty funny. I did too. Pat, best 5 seconds of that documentary, by the way. Except when he's hitting the gravity bong and drinking beers, talking about how he's changed his life. Patrick says, Landry, let me spit. The Texans are about to eat. We haven't seen the beginning of the defilement of other teams. I don't know what you mean, but I gotcha. I do not hear the word defilement very often. Not gonna lie. Mike Bui brings up an interesting point indirectly. He says, Sam Darnold produced 5 points in fantasy football versus the 49ers. Our defense is a lot better. They also run a similar style. Robert Saleh runs the same type of style of defense as DeMeco Ryans does. So I would say that's an interesting point, and it will be interesting to see if there was, I don't want to say a blueprint, but what that looks like. Now, this is not the same 49ers team. Like a lot of people have seen the 49ers play lately, and they're like, oh, well, they stink. Now, this was when they were full strength, and they weren't as banged up. They still had Bosa, and they did their thing. That it will be interesting to see if there's some sort of theme there, if the Texans can handle that. But that's another thing that gets brought up when it comes to the Texans and the 49ers and Seattle's low point and all that type of stuff. So we will check that out and see. And then maybe there's some sort of narrative on how you stop Sam Darnold, which again, going back to how we started this thing, it's kind of crazy that I don't want to lump y'all in with me, unless y'all want to be lumped in. This much respect for Sam Darnold. It's kind of interesting. Yeah, they still had Fred Warner too. Texans don't have great linebackers. They have good linebackers. They don't have great linebackers like that. And he kind of helped a little bit. So it'll be a fun game. Sam Darnold versus CJ Stroud. Who's better? The 2023 draft going to be on full display, and it's going to be a real fun game. Off day today. Tomorrow, we'll hear from DeMeco. We'll hear from CJ. We will talk to Derek Stingley at some point. He's a must talk to this week. This is a big game for Sting. And then Kaylee on Friday, and then just a little brief walkthrough on Saturday. You know what? I'm gonna try to get an interview with me and Stoots. What on SNL? I'm gonna try to get one of those 2-piece combo interviews. Who should we talk to? We aim low. We usually like to talk to offensive linemen or defensive linemen, like in the hall. Who should we try to talk to? We've talked to Jake Andrews. We talked to Patterson when he was making his start. Who should we try to talk to? Let me know in the chat, and we'll try to make that go down. Someone says British Brooks. Is British Brooks like, hey, come in, let us interview you? He does spit some bars though. He does spit some bars. Everybody's talking to Woody Marks right now. It's a little bit too much for him. We'll get in the Sting scrum. We'll check it out. It's going to be fun. Appreciate y'all for rolling through. Subscribe, like, right along. Did not mention Spanky's. Spanky's on Friday at 3:00, Sharpstown location. Me and Stoots have already said we're going to get a half appetizer of we're going to get an entree and treat it like an appetizer. I still might get wings because I'm actually going to fast tomorrow. I'm going to fast tomorrow for Spanky's. That's how good the food is. That's how much I plan on pigging out. But we're going to try the chicken Alfredo lasagna, and then I'm probably going to get some wings. Mike, he's going to get the tater kegs, and then I'm definitely getting a pizza. Daughter's going to kill some spaghetti. Appreciate y'all for rolling through. Subscribe, like, right along. Always remember, when it comes to this Texans stuff, we're all in it together. The Texans are off, but business is about to pick up. Monday night's going to be fun, going to be great. Gonna be late. Appreciate y'all.
Taste for days, opinions to give, we got takeaways. If it's up, then it's up. We number one. You don't need to try your luck. Locker room, yeah, we in the locker room. Texas talk, yeah, you know what we about to do. Localize every angle's what we really do. We the source, we the pulse of the city too.